there, brave souls. Welcome to Trauma is Expensive with your host, Micah Bravery. Here, we don't just talk about trauma. We count the cost and we make the change. With every episode, we dive deep into the heart of trauma, its implications, and the resilient transformations it can ignite. Through conversations, insights, real stories, and unflinching honesty, this podcast is here to empower every survivor to turn their pain into progress. So let's take a journey together as we understand, confront, and finally heal. Welcome to www.traumaisexpensive.com, your platform for change. Now, let's get started.
What is up, guys? Welcome to Trauma is Expensive. I am your host, Micah. I got producer Crystal in the building with me, as always. A very special guest, Elizabeth. Is it Gagnon?
Gagnon.
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 It's French.
Okay. All right. Oh, okay. Gagnon. Got it. So, Elizabeth. So in this season for Trauma is Expensive season 2, we figured we're going to take the focus a little bit off of us and focus on other people because our experiences are limited to our experiences, and there's so many other experiences in the world that needs to get told. So we're very glad you're here to join us on this episode and to tell your story. So that kind of leads into your introduction. One thing that we always do is we ask our guests to introduce themselves because no one knows your story quite like you. So tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, a little bit about me. I'm the lady that's on a mission to make a difference with a cup of tea, and not the beverage, but the tea of ourselves. We each have a tea. You have a tea. Crystal has a tea. We all have different teas, and we all serve different flavors and blends in our lives. We all come over stories and trauma and experiences, and that's what I've done. I was given the tea at the age of 4 by my Oma, and ever since then, I've been spilling tea in a different way. And I was a fundraiser for a while, and then COVID hit, and then we went virtual, and we've been doing that for 5 years and interviewing people just like you guys are doing, and spilling tea in a different way. And I've also created the tea books. A little bit more about me is I'm just the everyday woman with a goal and a mission in life to make a difference, to show that you can be different and do different and get different results.
Right, definitely. And I kind of like how you put that because it's you know, trust you're not just an everyday woman, but you know, we're all special, and you're doing a lot to change the world, which is pretty cool. But the fact that you're just showing people like, hey, you can just be, you don't got to be Beyonce, okay? You could be Elizabeth, you could be Crystal, you could be Micah, and you can still kind of affect change. So that's pretty dope. So now you were talking about you at 4. You said 4? Was it 4? That you started spilling the tea at 4. Can you tell us a little about that and your grandmother and how that all came to be?
I'm surprised you know that means grandmother.
Well, at the age of 4, a lot of things happened in my life. There was a good tea and there was a bad tea. And my Oma knew that I was going to have a hard life. So she kind of gave me the life tea of how to... So when at the age of 4, she gave me a cup of tea. And of course, a little girl, you just drink it really fast. You don't pay attention, right? You're just in the moment. And she's like, no. So I thought it was, oh my goodness, I'm in trouble. And she's like, let's do this again. And she had told me 3 words: to sit, reflect, recharge, and release. And at 4, I didn't know what she was talking about. I was like, what is this?
Right.
What is this woman talking about? Right. And she was from Germany. So she had this rough voice. And I always thought she was mad at me, but she wasn't. It was just her accent and her, culture, and that they sounded rough and mean and all of that. And I'm just little. And
you're 4.
Right. So, so as life got on, she knew that there was going to be a lot of dysfunction in my family, a lot of abuse and neglect and trauma. And she knew that I would have to do those things in my life, right? Reflect, recharge, and release. So as I was a little girl, I never really paid attention to the tea. But as I got older, I kept hearing this word tea. And I was like, okay, like get over it. Like, where's this tea coming from? Like, what am I supposed to do? And it was almost like she was tapping me on the shoulder to spill the tea, to serve the tea, to bring people together, to connect people. And that's what I'm good at, is I'm good at connecting people. I'm good at having communication and conversation with everyday people, right? From homelessness to, the top leaders in the world. Because everyone is a person, right? Not the title. So that's how I look at it. And then I was at the age of 40. I finally got out of a domestic violence a marriage of 16 years, and I had my first tea party. And I had all the ladies that were there. And one lady had asked me, she said, well, can we do this in the community? Can we have these kind of tea parties? Because the menu and the games and everything, the connection, right? And I said, I don't know, let's try it. Like, if we don't try, we don't know. So I did that for 3 years and raised a couple $1,000s for different organizations in my community. And that's how Miss Liz started serving tea. And Miss Liz came from my Oma as well. So a lot of people are like, when they hear Miss Liz, are like, oh, was that your stage name? I was like, no, my Oma gave me that name too. Like, she gave me it all at the age of 4. So, and I just brought it to where we can have conversations with everybody and make a difference. And then last year I wrote my books of TEA. And what I did is I did something different. So my tea books, they're not an everyday tea book. So when people see the cover, they're like, oh, it's going to be recipes and it's going to be tea stuff and it's all that. That's not how they are.
Right.
They're my story. So in the first book, I wrote about child abuse, the second one about grief, and the third one about mental illness. But I made it playful. I made it like Alice in Wonderland, where you're sliding down the loop and using words and that. So I use T words, E words, A words, and how we can use words to tell a story. Because my Oma had gave me a life story at the age of 4 with those 3 words of the R's, where I took the T and started using the TEAs and using words and getting everyone to give me words that start with TEA. And not everyone has a TEA because they're still in that transformation time. They're still overcoming the challenge or still in the trauma or that moment. So they might not know what their T is at the moment. So we got to take time, right, to serve it and to steep it and get it ready to go. So that's what I do.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
Right.
It's pretty dope. And then just how you correlated with tea. The one thing that kind of stuck out to me was you saying that your grandmother knew your life was going to be hard.
Yeah.
And was that just because what was going on around you?
Well, she knew there was a lot of dysfunction, right? A lot of addictions and a lot of abuse and that. And she was an observer, and that's what I am. I observe a lot, and she kind of seen that in me as a little girl, and she knew that I would have to be strong on my own because the family was what happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors, kind of like that. And she knew that one day I would find my voice, and my voice was in my tea. So it all goes right back to the tea.
Now, do you think that that's right? Do you think that that's changing now, though? That now, instead of, like if you were growing up now, would your grandmother have to teach you to still be strong in that kind of way? Or is there other ways that she could have done something about the dysfunction around you? Because I feel like people who are growing up now kind of have a little more benefit to things we didn't have when we grew up. Sorry,
Right.
okay, Mike. I could grow up with what happens in the house stays in the house, and all these rules. You don't tell people outside the house your business and that kind of thing. And I went through a lot of craziness too. So, do you think that if the generation was now, or that people have more of an opportunity now, not to have to teach their kids how to deal with it, but kind of solve it while it's going on?
I think it's more severe now because we have the hidden bullies in the homes, right? It's no longer the abuse; it's a bully now. Not all parents are bullies, but I'm saying there's a lot of that still that hush hush, right?
Right.
You're my child, and this is what I'll do with my child, and it's a lot of control and power over children that I find. So, but my Oma would have never been able to, even to this day, because she came from war, right? She came, and they were scared to speak. So
Right.
she gave me the voice to speak because she knew she couldn't speak.
Wow. And it's pretty crazy. And shout out to Uma, because it's a pretty dope. So it was resilient. No, what was it? The rest of
Recharge, reflect, and release.
Recharge, reflect, and release. Okay, I like that. Recharge, reflect. But that is something to hear at 4 years old. Like, what?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know what them words
Right.
meant.
Well, that's what when she was like, I was like, I don't know what this woman wants me to do. Like, what are these words? And, and
So now, Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, so now we know kind of that you had, you did, your grandmother was right, and you kind of lived a life of struggling. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that, if you don't
No,
mind.
I don't.
And then, okay. And then also 2-part question, because I'm going to ask you to kind of tie in the story when like it started to make sense, what your grandmother said and those things. And, kind of like you said, you got out of the abusive relationship, like you started to stand up for yourself and love yourself and have your voice and find your voice. Can you tell us a little bit about that story and that transition?
Well, I think my biggest transition was when I wrote my story in 2017 in an anthology called Sacred Hearts Rising, Breaking the Silence, that was compiled by Brenda Hammond. When I shared my story, it was like a relief. It was, okay, this is the recharge that I needed, to reflect and to release it, to let it out, to let it all go. And when I reached out to Brenda Hammond, I had said, like, do you think my story matters? And she said, absolutely. So then she's like, okay, well, 1,500 words, everyone's going to do 1 or 2 pages for a chapter. And when I wrote mine, because I had so much trauma and so much abuse and stuff in my family, I wrote enough to write a book. And Brenda Hammond's like, whoa, we're going to have to break this up, girl. Like, I know I'm going to do more than just one book. So maybe we'll get the next part in the next book and then the next book. So I wrote in 4 books, the 4-book series of Sacred Hearts Rising, and got my story out bit by bit because it was a heavy story. My story is a heavy one. And I didn't want to put a heavy story out there. I just wanted to put my story out there so people could see that if I could speak, they could speak too.
Right.
Right. Now, when you wrote them books, did you feel like a little relief, like heaviness was off your shoulders, that it was finally out there, and like felt some kind of like, oh, this is done?
It was like the weight's taken off of my shoulders.
Yeah.
When I wrote the story, I thought, okay, well, a couple of people are going to buy the book and it's going to be out there and everything. But then when it went #1 international bestseller, it was like, oh, it's really out there now. You know, like I thought it was just going to be a book, like anybody would, like a couple people would read it and that would be the end of it. But it got really out there. And then I had to come to the realization that, and for some reason I had this vision that somebody in Rome was reading my story in the washroom. And I was just like, I don't know why I had that vision, but
I know that's very vivid and probably very realistic, right?
Probably was.
Because that's when people read most of the time. I've seen people at the laundromat all the time reading. So yeah, it makes sense.
Right. So I had this vision that somebody was reading my story and saying, oh my goodness, that little girl, what she went through, and she was able to share it. And maybe the person that was reading that story was in that situation and didn't know how to say, you know what, I could do this too. And that's what I wanted with my story. And with book 1, when a lot of people that know me personally, where I live, they bought the book and they were like, how are you this way? How are you so kind from all of the stuff that you were given? And I always tell everybody, I would not give anybody what I was given. Just because it was given to me doesn't mean I have to give it to someone else, right?
Definitely.
Right.
So
Definitely. So can you tell us a little bit about your story just for our audience and kind of, that's the purpose they're listening, right? They want to be able to relate. So.
Oh, I don't have a problem sharing my story. I've come a long way. If you would have asked me 7 years ago to share my story, I'd probably be bawling and crying. Like I still get teary-eyed for certain things. But my story started at the age of 4. That was the bad cup that I got. I was molested and raped by my uncle at the age of 4 for 9 years. And then I became pregnant by him. And I lost my child at 14 to stillborn. And then from the age of 17 to 31, I was married in an abusive relationship. My father had sold me off for $2 to my ex-husband. So yeah, it took me a long time to get out of that. But my story, I wouldn't change it. I would take all the beatings again. I would take all of the abuse again because it gave me my story today. It gave me my voice today. Do I have my triggers? Do I have my traumas? Of course I do. It's not something you're going to ever get over, but you find ways. And for me, writing was the way to release that pain and that hurt and betrayal and rejection from my family. There was a lot of mental abuse, a lot of physical abuse. You know, today I speak as an advocate for domestic violence and mental health and child abuse because I want people to know that our stories don't define who we are. We can change
Right.
and we can make that difference, right? When we believe in ourselves.
Yeah. Well, so what was the conversation that Elizabeth had with Elizabeth when you started to realize I'm worth more than all of these things that happened to me?
Well, the conversation I had wasn't with Elizabeth. It was with my grandma, another grandma. My elders really are my heroes in my life. And I was brought up that when you get married, you stand by your man, you stay by your man, you obey your man. We even had the word obey in our vows. So it took a while for me to know that it was okay to leave my ex-husband. My grandmother told me, like, do you want to have a life or do you want to have a pine box? Because that's exactly where you're going to end up. And
Wow.
I said, I want a life, Grandma. And she's like, you run and you run far because you matter. And that's what I did is I ran away 18 years. I've been gone 18 years from my family. I go back only for certain things and I make sure that it's quick and back to where I am. And but I had to make that choice, right? That did I want a life or did I want a box? So
Right. Definitely. Now, was that the first time you kind of had that conversation with people, or had people probably told you this before in your life, or?
well, I was in 29 shelters before I left my ex-husband. So I tried many times to leave, but I always went back because of the the upbringing, right? You stand by your man, you obey your man, you know.
So you had to kind of start changing what you believed a little,
Yeah.
or kind of what you practiced. And then, so do you know what the feeling was? Was it just the love for your grandmother, or kind of, like, what was it about that conversation? Was it the first time that someone said something about a pine box to you that made you decide, like, hey, I need to run,
Yeah. Well, it was either run or I was going to be dead because he was trying to kill
Right.
me. So I had to make a choice. And I had kids
Yeah.
as well that I had to think of. So I left with my kids. But I mean, it wasn't a conversation that came up very often because he was a Jekyll and Hyde. So in public, he was a good guy. And in private, he was the bad guy.
Right.
A lot of the abuse happened at nighttime, but sometimes some bruises still showed up. So then it was, oh, I fell down or I slipped, or you say those stories that don't you dare don't say it that it was him because then you're getting more
Right.
so. And my father was also a woman beater. So he beat my mom. So, like, my dad supported my ex-husband. Women just need to obey their husbands and they won't get a beating,
Right.
So there was a lot of sickness in the family. But it took me a while to realize, I think I might have been maybe 38 when I realized that, hey, my life matters and
Right.
my story matters and I can
Yeah.
make a difference with my story. So today I'm 50 and I'm not in that situation anymore. I know where my ex-husband is, but I stay far away from him.
Mhm.
You know, but writing my story and showing my children that I could have a voice, gave them a
Right.
voice as well. So my
Yeah.
children write as well. They haven't
Oh,
published
that's pretty
anything,
cool.
but they write a lot. There's a lot of us that write. Me and my three children, we use writing to release our pain and that.
And that's pretty cool. So now we have someone, of course, that is watching this show, and hopefully not in a situation as bad as yours were, but in something similar or close, or whatever the situation is. But they still kind of follow those beliefs. Stand by your man. This is who you marry. This is your vows. And in some religions, it's it's a sin to get divorced, and there's a lot of reasons why people kind of stay.
Yeah.
Right.
What would be your reason to kind of make them, I'd say we can never tell people what to do. Everybody makes their own choices. You have to want it for yourself, but we can inspire. So what would you say to inspire those people to start looking at themselves and loving themselves the way that they should, so that they know they deserve more than that and that they are more than that?
Well, I think it goes right back to the question when you said, when did Elizabeth talk to Elizabeth, right? So for anybody that might be living in a situation that is in domestic violence or any kind of abuse or anything, look in the mirror, talk to the mirror, because the mirror is not going to argue back with you. The mirror is going to actually be the reflection that you might need to see yourself. I know for me, for the longest time, I couldn't even look in the mirror, because when I looked in the mirror, I seen a monster. I seen what they were doing to me as I was doing it to myself, because in a way, I felt like I was allowing it. I could have left at any time. I was in a tree, I could pick up my roots and move, but it was the fear. And for anyone in that situation, the fear does take over a lot. And they say it takes up to at least 7 times before you leave an abusive relationship. So it's not like you're going to leave tomorrow and it's going to be final. You might go back again for another 6 times. But your life matters. And I think men or women, because there are men too that get abused. And I speak on this a lot because I have a son, and I would want my son to have the same services as what I have,
Right.
So if anyone's in that situation, reach out and build yourself a person that you can connect with, that you're safe with, and not a family member, not a friend. Let it be somebody outside of your inner circle, because your inner circle sometimes is not your circle.
Right. Right. And it can be inside your family, but, I get what you're saying. Not all the time is it inside your family.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought another thing that I kind of wanted to just emphasize that you said that was really, really dope was not dope as in, you know what I'm trying to say. But,
dope isn't good.
Cool.
Yeah, what you said was dope, but what the topic is not dope. You know what I'm saying? But you said that you may go back 6 more times, or that you may continue to go back, and it's and I think that's the thing that one of the things that sometimes we forget in healing, when we do revert back to old ways or old habits or old traumas or old feelings and depression. And, me, I'm like the happiest person in the world, but I have my moments still where I'm like, I'm just depressed and I want to sleep all day and I don't know why, but it's just there. But, it's like, give yourself permission to be human,
Yeah.
Give yourself permission to be, to make mistakes and to mess up and to do what's wrong. And we kind of talked about it yesterday. But I like recently heard a quote that it's you're not the worst thing you ever done, but it's also stands true. You're not the worst thing you ever been through.
Yeah.
Like you define you, like Elizabeth had that conversation a little bit. Define yourself and stop letting all these other things do. And that you may mess up and you're going to go back and you're going to, forget and redo and do all those things. And all that is okay.
Yeah.
As long as the end result is something that you're truly happy with, that doesn't have negative consequences. To me, that's like the judgment line. If it don't got a negative consequence, then it's good.
Well, and I think we all have up and down days, right? As I said before, when I spoke before on another podcast, life is a roller coaster. We ride the roller coaster, the circus ride in that. Why don't we ride our own roller coasters, our life roller coasters?
Right.
We go up, we go down, we go spinning. Some days we go up, 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 and then we go down. And, like if we can ride these carnival rides, why can we not ride our own ride?
Right.
And be okay with saying, what, today's just a hard day. It's just a rotten apple day, but tomorrow might be an orange, we can't just sit in the moment. And when you're sitting in the moment and the pity and the victim blaming and, oh, it's their fault, and, oh, I could have did this and I could have, like, woulda, coulda, shoulda, it just keeps playing a vicious circle, right? So, you just got to say, what, today's just a bad day, and tomorrow's going to maybe tomorrow might be another bad day, but we're eventually going to have a good day.
Right.
Was there ever a point of during the abuse that like you hated yourself for actually, living the way you were living because that it wasn't right?
Yeah. I would get
And
really mad at myself, Crystal, because I'd be like, where is my strength? Why can I not just pick up my feet and walk out and stay out? Why can I not just stay away? What keeps bringing me back? And
Do you know what it was? Sorry, not to interrupt. But do you know what it was that kept bringing you back? Was it that belief? Was that belief so strong, or was it something else?
yeah, it was the belief. It was the programming, right? Since you're a little girl, stand by your man, stand by your man.
Good
And,
word, program.
and the Tammy Wynette song, and Tammy Wynette is my favorite singer of all times. And she sang that song, Stand by Your Man. And, and that played all the time when they was drinking, when they were partying, like stand by your man, stand by your. So it's just like programming, right? It's just like if you hear it enough, you're just going to do it. Whether you like it or you don't like it, you're just going to do it because that's what you've been told all your life. Like, I remember getting my license at the age of 26 and going to see my dad and showing him that I had my license. And he looked right at me and said, "How dare you do that?"
Wow.
Because he knew that if I had my license, I had a way of getting away.
Right. Freedom.
Right.
It was some kind of freedom.
Yeah.
And that's pretty horrible. Crystal, you kind of messed up my question though when you asked that. That was a really good question though. It was a really good question. Like she was waiting for that. She was playing double dutch. She was like, as soon as Micah shut up,
I'm dunking that ball in.
You're right. You're like, as soon as Micah shut up. But
when did you know, like, this is enough? Like, I need a change. I know that you said it was around 36, but was there something that had happened where you were like, I can't do this anymore? Or I know you said it about your grandmother.
But he also was going to kill her.
Yeah, but like, was there a point, like that one time he, I don't want to say hit you extra hard, or like one time that it was just like, I really have to get out. I really have to. And I know you probably said it every single time, but was there that one time that you were like, this is it?
Well, the thing that broke the camel's back for me was my children.
Right.
Because I always told my ex, you could do whatever you want to me. I'm your piece of meat, whatever you want to do to me, but don't you dare hurt these kids. And when I found out that he hurt the kids, that was it. Wow. I was like, no, this is not going to work for me. This is like, growing up, I was told I was garbage. I would be nothing. I was trash. How dare I try to be anything in life by my parents? And, so getting it from my ex-husband, it was just like, I got it all my life anyway. So, it was routine. It was what I was used to. But when it came to my kids, I was a mama bear. And I was like, I'll take all the beatings. I'll take all the hits. But my ex-husband didn't only just hit. A lot of emotional abuse, a lot of financial abuse. They do that. They make you financially unstable so that you're stuck there.
They have all the control.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he also was poisoning me. So he was trying to kill me. And then I started having seizures, and we were wondering why I was having seizures. Well, what he was doing was giving me he had epilepsy, and he was giving me his medication. So I started, my brain, my body was being told that it had to have seizures because it was getting medication for seizures and that. So there was a lot of stuff that he did, and he's so sick that he still wants to be friends to this day. He's like, you promised you would be my friend for life. And I was like a dude, like, it's not happening.
Do you know who I was? Like, right. Do you know how weak I was then? So how
I'm strong now.
How Wonder Woman I am right now? Like, you might just want to stay away from me. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, was there a point that it stopped being about your belief and you stayed because of the kids?
For the first few years, it was the kids. It was, I wanted the perfect family. I wanted the mom and dad. I wanted, no matter how bad he was, and he was hardly ever there anyway. He was in and out of jail all the time. So, and a lot of people said, well, why didn't you leave when he was in jail? Well, he would have people stay with me so that,
wow.
So that he can have that watch over me, right? Because when he was in jail, he didn't have that control over me. So So he would have like a friend stay with me, and they would monitor and tell him, okay, well, she's talking to this person and she's with that person. And I wouldn't be with anybody. I'd be taking care of everybody. Like my brothers and sisters would come over and all of that stuff. So it was just a fear. Like you get in this situation where you just fear for your life, right? And you don't understand. You don't understand why you're so scared.
Right.
You know, because when I think back, I'm like he was just a little shit. Like, why can I just not leave the guy? Like, you know, and I don't like to bash him because he is the father of my children, you know,
Right.
even though
I
he
would say
hurt his
sometimes
kids, but I still, as a woman, I want my children to know that their father is still their father.
right.
Even though they don't have a relationship with their father, one day that might change, and that's between them and their relationship. But that, you know, because it's just putting that negative back out there, right? If I bash the abuser, then I'm just as bad as the abuser because I'm just keeping the pattern going. And a lot of people say to me, well, if he ever knocked on your door, what would you do? I said, well, I probably would let him in because that's just who I am, but I wouldn't trust him. Like I wouldn't
Right.
Right.
you know, I would be on guard, but I wouldn't put him on the cold because I do have children with him. So, you know, there's a lot of emotional abuse and trauma that it messes your head up, right? Because
Definitely.
even though I was sold to this man to be married to him, I did care about the guy because he was a human
Right.
being. He was a person, you know, and he's still a person. Now, does he need help? Absolutely, he needs help, and I hope to heck he gets it. But you know, that's something only he can do. Just like I can help myself, and he can help himself. So
Definitely, that's kind of what we find on, right? You got to be the one that wants a different life, that wants to be different. You know, it's like
yeah,
misery is misery, you know, and I guess it really does love company, right? But
yeah.
you can walk out the room, like you can leave, you know. That's the crazy
Well,
part.
that's the
You can
thing, right?
go.
A lot of people, when they're not in those situations, they're like, "Well, why didn't you just leave? Like it was so easy. Like just
Right.
open the door and leave." But unless you live it, you don't really understand it. You don't understand the fear that's in the body, right? You know, I didn't want to let my family down. I was the oldest. I had to set the example. You know, so I had siblings that had to look up to me, and you know, so there was a lot of things that I always like. Okay, well, I got to be the example. I got to be the example. I got to be the good wife. I got to do this. I got to do this. Like, you know, when I just said, you know what, nobody's doing anything for me. So, like, you know,
Right.
so
So now you said that your father had sold you, and you know, by being in this abusive relationship and dealing with it, and then actually get like standing up and leaving, what kind of effect did that have towards you and your father, you and your mom? Did they show you some type of hate or anything like that because you left him?
yeah. My dad, the day that I left my ex-husband, he called me and said, "You're off my will." I was the executive of my father's will, and when I finally left my husband for good, my dad had removed me. It really it tainted our relationship. We never were the same again. My dad also bailed my ex-husband out of jail for hurting the grandkids. So there was a lot of betrayal, a lot of sickness. And then there was also utter betrayal from my mother and my ex-husband. You know, they had a romantic relationship for years. There was a lot of sickness in my family, a lot of dysfunction.
Yeah.
Where my ex-husband used to tell me, I don't need to cheat with strangers. I have your family that I can have, and all of them will have
Wow.
me. So it was like
Right.
sisters and aunts and cousins and my mom, and you know, anything to hurt me.
Right. And it's kind of like you say, people always do make those comments, you know, oh, you should have just left a long time ago, and this, that, and those other things. But I'm one person that is proof to tell you that it's hard to get out of friendships. It's hard to get out of, you know, like me. I've recently let go of friends that I should have let go a long time ago. it's not the same as an abusive relationship. But what I am saying is that if that was hard for me to do, imagine how hard it'll be, if you are in this situation and it's love and it's marriage and it's kids and it's all of these kind of things. So, I guess, we just need to stop judging and just learn to support each other and just stand by people and to know that, hey, it may take 7 times or it may take 6 times. It may take 20 times, but you know what? Either, you have the choice to be there or not be there, but it's none of your business. So stop commenting on things that ain't got nothing to do with you,
Well, it goes right back to the carnival ride, right? When you get into a carnival ride and they have to have so many people in one caboon or something, right? Like when you go into like the Twister, they need 3 people and you only have 2 with you. So they have to put a total stranger in that seat with you, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So you're with that person for that few seconds in that ride. You're not judging that person. So that's how we should be looking at life, is we're sitting together. Right. We might not understand each other, but we're having that fun together. We're having life together. I think it's really important that we all start, instead of comparing, because we're all judges. Like everyone will judge something that they don't understand. That's human nature. It's, anybody that says I don't judge, I'm just like, ugh, I don't know about you, but I know you do. Like we all have something that we're like, really? Why are they wearing that? Or why did they drink that? Or why do they eat that? Or, we're always like, why? Where right. I look at life and I say, you know what? Maybe because they like it doesn't mean that I have to,
Right. That's the key thing right there. Because, I realize, I think Crystal and I are all both the same way. We do realize that not everything is for us. But it's like, it's cool. It's like, right. Your cup of tea is your cup of tea, right?
Exactly. And I tell that to everybody. I don't want to be everyone's cup of tea. Because if you're everyone's cup of tea, then you're not actually being your authentic self. Right. If you're just looking for likes and loves from everybody, are you really being yourself? Right. Because at the end of the day, if you're just looking for that, and I say this a lot, especially on social media, everyone is so much about likes and loves and, oh, I got this much followers and I got that many subscribers. And at the end of the day, if anything would really truly happen to you in your life, would those people be there?
Right.
Will they have your back?
It's like, how many people going to show up to your funeral?
Right?
For real.
Unless you're if you're throwing a big extravagant celebration of life and you're giving a lot of stuff away, you're going to have a lot of people there. But that's the thing. At the end of the day, it's you. It's you in that mirror. It's you that has to say, you know what? Who do I take care of? Even with children, as a mom, I had to say, I need to take care of mom in order for me to be a mom.
Right.
So we sometimes stay so focused on our children that we lose who we are as well. We're just like, we're a mom. Like my daughter is 32 and she's a mom and she's like, I just want to be a mom. I was like, you don't want to do anything with your life? No, I just want to be a mom. And I said, well, when your children grow up and they leave home, sweetheart, you're going to have a really hard time with empty nesters. I'm telling you, you're going to struggle because you're going to be like, now what do I do with my life? Like, I'm a mom, but oh my God, my kids are.
I'm actually going through that now.
Yeah, that is. Crystal is going through that.
I'm all about my children.
My daughter just left.
And my son's older and he left. And then my daughter, she just left for college, and I'm like, they're like disappearing one by one. Like I would have 100 more kids just because I just don't want to be, I don't want to say alone, but
well, the empty nester feeling is real, Crystal. Like it really is a real thing, and it also a trauma. It's a grief.
It is definitely
because you have these babies and they grow up fast. You blink your eye and boom, they're gone. And the next thing you look at is you're like, what do I do with myself? Because you put all your energy into that. I was that mom. It was all about my kids. I didn't care. I'd do it out. I'd sacrifice. Like they would get the extra candy bar. Mom would not get any. I was that mom. And then finally my kids looked at me and they said, Mom, you matter too. I was like, oh. My own.
That just shows you right there that you were raising them good, though.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I feel like sometimes you got to be selfish in order to become selfless. You know what I'm saying? It's like you gotta realize. I'm in my selfish phase now, and it is all about me and how I benefit. I'm not gonna do nothing that don't benefit me. You know what I mean? So right now it's about me and how I benefit. But because of that, I am receiving an abundance.
Yep.
And what happens naturally? I give that abundance away, and I put into this, and I put into that, and I'll put into this person, and I put into that person, and it's like, and you're doing it, and you don't even realize you're doing it.
Right.
I realized that before, when I did things and I was conscious of doing it, it made me mad.
Yeah.
Like if someone, for instance, money, people always come for money. All right. I don't know why. I'm like, it does not say bank of anything up here. Okay. If anything, it says broke and working. Okay.
Well, that's the thing, right? When you're a people pleaser, everybody expects it from you, right?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
he's going to do it. She's going to do it. And then when you say no because you can't do it, then they're like, well, you're a rotten person. Like you
Oh my God. Like you got this little podcast and now you think you all that. Yeah, because you on a chart, you think you all that. I'm like, ooh, that's how you gonna play me? Look, you're still not getting it. But I also realize that, when people are in need, I give freely without even thinking about it, whatever is the need. And not just monetary. It could just be time, energy, just a ear or something like that. And I'm doing it, for the right reasons. I'm doing it because, I'm good. I have time to kind of take this on if they need me to lift it off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm good. Before I was me and then dumb and now I'm way down and, life is heavy. And,
Goes with
my God, so
a cup of water filling up your...
Right. I'm
Yours
over
was
here.
dry.
I was dry as hell. You know what I'm saying? Who wants to be dry?
But it all comes back to,
So sorry,
like,
Elizabeth.
I noticed that your podcast is called Feelings, right? So it comes back to the feelings of ourselves.
These fucking feelings.
Yeah, these fucking feelings, right? So it comes right back to our feelings. How do we feel about ourselves? And like you're saying, like you've taken the time and said, I'm selfless. I'm selfish. It's not being selfish. It's saying I'm self-caring myself. I matter and I'm coming first.
Right.
People think that because we put ourselves first and we say no to others, we're selfish. We're not selfish. We're taking care of us because you're not going to take care of us. You might love us. You might be in a relationship with us. You might be our partner, our spouse, or, our friend. But at the end of the day, we have to take care of ourselves.
Definitely. And see, that's like the number one rule in my relationship. My partner, no, like the first time I feel unhappy, let's repeat that. The first time I feel unhappy, this is over. Because at an age, it's like, I know my worth. I know who I am. I know what I deserve. I know how I love myself. I refuse to accept anything less. Now, yes, I'm a lot like you, Elizabeth. It took me 44 years to get here. It took me a long time to get there. I didn't always feel this way, but now that I'm here, I'm like, can't nobody take this from me. You're not going to take this joy and this happiness. And trust, I wake up bad days and good days and kind of all those days we talked about. But right. I'm still more happy than I am sad. Yeah. I'm just at that point in my life where I have more good days than I do bad, but I'm working on it. Like I'm working to improve that kind of stuff. So I kind of want to go into this question kind of before we wrap up. And it's you heard a lot of things growing up. You were talked about a lot. Like you said, you were told you were trash, you was garbage, you were these kind of things. And I know we talked about programming earlier. So I know that had to be part of your programming. Are those things that you still hear to this day? And then how do you deal with it if you do?
Oh, yeah. I still hear those negative. It's almost like the angel and the devil, right? Right. And I forget what cartoon it was. I think it was Bugs Bunny or something. They had the angel and the devil, little kids cartoon, and it was saying, do this, and then no, Dad, or no, it was, I think, a Tom and Jerry. There was like a bad cat and a good cat or something. And
right.
Yeah. And I just kind of go into that moment and say, you know what? Am I that person?
Right.
Do I want to have these feelings right now? Because when I do get in a heavy spot sometimes and I'm just like, do I want to stay like this forever again? Like, do I want to go back in that hole? Or do I want to get over to the next one, And it's like Alice in Wonderland, right? Just hopping into different rabbit holes. Like, do I want to go back into the old rabbit hole or do I want to check the new rabbit hole and get some new adventure? And I'm about the new adventure, new starts, restarting. And, retracing, like going back and looking at the steps and saying, wow, you took all these steps. Look where you are now. transformation, looking at what I went through and where I am today. Do I have my shit together? God, no. Like, I have my days, where I struggle and I say, you know what? Today is just a bad day. Like, God, where is this coming from?
Right.
But I try to get out of it as fast as I can with a lot of self-talk, a lot of writing. When I'm in my dark spot, I like to grab a pen and I just like to scribble.
Right.
And then I like, I made I always see faces or animals when I scribble. So then I'm like, there's a kitty cat. There's a. So it changes my mind, right? But it's a scribble on the paper. Or in school, we had this exercise where we would just scribble on the page. We'd take a pencil and we'd just scribble on a page. And then we would color the different spots. And we would make these mosaics. And that's how life was for me. It was a broken piece of glass, broken pieces, and I had to put them all together, right?
Right.
So, so I just scribble, and I get it out, release it. Or I just walk and talk to myself. I really talk to myself, and I'll give myself a really bad talk, like a stern talk, and then it'll turn around and it'll be like as if the angel has popped around and said, okay, now we're going to do this, right? You had your 10 minutes of your cursing and venting and all of that. Okay, now what are we doing? What steps are we taking? Where's the solution in this?
Right.
Yeah. I'm kind of a little opposite. I allow myself to have my moments, so like if I wake up angry, Crystal will tell you, if I wake up angry, and that's usually how it is, like I'll wake up angry and I just know it's just going to be an angry day. I'm angry for full 24 hours and I allow myself.
I wish she would text me and I'm angry so I don't come into work.
Because she hates it when I'm angry. She even tells me my eyes turn red, but it's nothing that can happen that day that'll fix it. And I'm cool with that. Like I allow it because I live by this philosophy that I'm always going to be better tomorrow than I am today.
Yeah.
So if I have this angry day today, tomorrow I'm going to be better. So it's not going to be an angry day. And that's kind of, it's kind of the same thing you're saying, but I don't know. For some reason, I feel like it's necessary to allow myself to have those emotions. But that's what works for me, so, and I think that's the reason why I shared it, because it's like, let's try Elizabeth's way. Let's try my way. But there's a way that works for you. For me, me and Crystal had received a really disrespectful email from another person who does a podcast. And most of the time we would have ignored it. But this time I was like, I want to be petty. And I was petty. And I was just saying stuff to be petty. And it was okay for me to be in that petty moment. Afterwards, I thought about it and it was like, do I feel guilty about this? And I thought that I did for a moment. And then it was like, nah, I don't, because it was okay for me to be petty at that moment. And, I'm not condoning negative behavior, but I am condoning for us to be human.
Well, it's okay to be petty if someone's being petty to you, right? Right. We're not going to pat it on the back and say, yeah, you can just come at me sometimes you have to put your foot down and you have to say, you know what? Whoa, enough.
Right.
If you don't put the brakes on it, it just continues, right? It's that pattern. It's that circle. It just keeps going and going and going. And, sometimes people have to get what they're giving, because they're not used to getting it back. And then they're like, oh.
Right. And you're going to get it from me. I'm going to give it to you. You ask it for I'm going to give it to you.
I've had some of those people too, and I'm just like, how dare you come at me like that? No, we're not doing that. We're not going down that hole. If that's the way you feel, then you're more than welcome to go to there's 3.4 million other podcasts out there.
Right.
Go enjoy yourself somewhere else. You're not going to come and ruin my table.
Right, definitely. Hey, we're here for you. We're telling you, if you're born, then there is a trauma that exists in you. If you came out of somebody, you have trauma. Whether you think so or not, you do. That's just
everyone does.
And until you actually deal with it, you're always going to have that trauma. And I'm not saying that it could be cured, or it could go away, or it could do this, but there are methods to handle it. There are things to do to have a normal. I'm not going to say normal, because it seems like having a healthy, happy life is unnormal these days. Yeah. And so let's have an unnormal life and just be happy and healthy. But Elizabeth, before we go, so the name of the episode, thought my ringers were off. The name of the podcast that you're actually on is Trauma is Expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, once again, it's your story, it's about you. But, I heard that phrase once in a conversation by accident. What the person said was Toronto is expensive. But what I heard was trauma is expensive. And it just rang with me because I say when you don't deal with your trauma and you have all this unresolved trauma, to me, it costs me friendships. It costs me people I love. It costs me money. It costs me self-worth. It costs me so many things.
Right.
What would you say is the cost of your trauma and not dealing with it sooner?
The cost that I've lost was time of
what would you say would be like the cost of your trauma? Like, what are the things that you say happened because of your trauma that, if you would have dealt with it earlier or fought with it earlier or considered it earlier?
Well, I think the thing that I lost the most was the relationship with my children. Because of the domestic violence and because of the situation, there was things that I had to make and choices I had to make. And today I have a relationship with my kids, but my kids were in foster care for 18 years. Because of safety reasons, it was easier for me to leave than it was for them to pick up in schools and all of that all the time, right?
Right.
So the cost that I lost was the relationship with my children, because me and my children will never have that relationship of mom and kids. They look at me, they call me mom, but they don't look at me as mom anymore. So that was my biggest cost in all of this. And another cost was my childhood. I lost my childhood because of all of this sickness in my family,
Right.
So now I like to play. Now I like to have fun. Now I like to have tea parties and I like to have friends and connect with people. I didn't have that growing up because it was all stay in the room, stay in the shadows,
Right.
like be seen but not heard growing up. So now that was the cost that I lost, was my childhood and the relationship with my children.
Right. And you know what? I'm going to say that makes you the greatest mom because that was the first thing you thought about. So that's kind of cool. I didn't expect that to be your answer. Honestly, I thought it was going to be something about yourself and the first thing came out with kids. And I was like, she is so a mama. So
I'm a mama bear. Like my kids know that. Like my daughter's getting married in September and I'm mom and dad and I'm going to do anything to make it a beautiful day for her. I don't have $1 million, but I'm going to make sure that it's a beautiful day for her. And if anybody tries to ruin it, well, Mama Bear is going to just come and eat some people. Because
right. Well, make sure that you send us pictures. So of course we're going to put all of your links in the bottom of this episode. Of course, I'm gonna get a copy of your books, but I'm a little greedy, right? So I want them autographed.
Oh, not a problem.
So, but we'll be happy to pay for them. We support, we're going to support, we'll pay for them. So me and you will get together and we'll work that out, and all your books. And I'll actually read them because I do read. So
well, there's a lot of work for you to do with my books. It's not just a read book. There's self-help exercise in there that you got to do for you.
Okay.
Because I can't help anybody, right? And that's one thing that I want everyone out there to understand is when somebody says that they can come and heal you, don't run. Because they need to heal themselves.
Only heal yourself.
Right.
Because it's a reflection. I want to heal people. You really want to heal yourself.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Definitely.
When I hear that word heal, when I hear the word obey, when someone says, oh, you need to obey my services, you need to obey oh, no. You know what? I'm out of here. I'm running, But my books are made different. Like I made them so that it's my story, but it's also your story. Because there's exercises in there, there's fun facts. You get to travel. Like in each of the books, I take you to 3 different countries. I give you some fun facts that's not tea related because I don't want people to think of the beverage. I want them to think of the inner travel, the inner journey within yourself. So my stories were heavy, but I made them light and playful. So it was like Alice in Wonderland going down different rabbit holes, and having fun. And I want to hear your feedback. Like, how did you feel about the exercises? What did you think of the fun facts? Like I have time travel in there. I have the guy who created education, some really educational stuff. So it can be used in schools and universities and classrooms and courses, if you wanted to do any of the exercises. And there's some fun things in there, like putting Band-Aids and words on your skin and pulling them off. A Band-Aid hurts, man. Take it off. Rip it off your skin. See if that hurts. I know
That does hurt.
Right.
that's how life is, right? Life
That's a
hurts
really good
sometimes.
one.
So,
Yeah.
and all ages can do this. Like these are exercises that all ages can do. And so, yeah, when you get the books, enjoy the books, enjoy the exercises, and you might find some fun facts in there and you'll be like, whoa, this is not what I was expecting, because I get that a lot when people buy the book.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
It's amazing.
Yeah, well, cool. Well, thank you so much for being on. Once again, we'll list all of your contact information below, and just recommend people to go out there and just look at Elizabeth, check more into her story, especially if you can relate, because the objective is you are the objective. And once again, we all discussed it. We can't help anybody heal. You have to want to heal yourself, but we hope that we inspire you to know that you are worth every bit of healing and every bit of your life and every bit of living your life your way for your happiness. So until next week, thank you guys for listening, and we hope you have a great week. Peace, love, and blessings.
Bye.
And that brings us to the end of yet another insightful episode of Trauma is Expensive. I'm signing off on behalf of your host, Micah Bravery, reminding all you brave souls to continue counting the cost and making the change. Don't forget to visit www.traumaisexpensive.com, a dynamic space for understanding, healing, and transformation, where we fuel the journey to turn pain into progress. Until we meet again, stay resilient, stay empowered, and remember the mantra, count the cost and make the change. Thank you for being part of the conversation. We bid you farewell until next time.